Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. This week we are going to recap Fight to Win Philly, Fight to Win 90 in Philly, the Black Belt CBD Invitational. We're going to talk a little bit about Sirius Grappling, Marinas Pro in Japan. Then we're going to preview Fight to Win 91. We're going to preview SAGC Submission Arena Grappling Challenge. Talk a little bit about Battle Grapple 3 and the World Series of Jiu-Jitsu coming up. As always, I'm your host, Maine, joined here with my co-host,
Emil.
How you doing, Emil?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing, Maine?
I'm doing pretty good. Had a pretty good week. Finally cleaning up my house.
Yeah?
Taking some vacation time off here in a
Yeah,
minute.
man, we were in Philly, dude. This is an
great.
awesome weekend.
Yeah,
This is a great
it was a
weekend.
good ass weekend. Got off work on Friday and then just booked it
Yeah.
up to Philly to go watch Fight to Win. And Mia texted me at right at 4:45, or he called me and you're like, "Hey, how do I get in?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "You're on the list." Like, you walk up to Missy and you go, "Hey, I'm Emil with the Grappling Rewind Podcast," and she'll go, "Oh, I see your name on this list. Here's your ticket," and then you go in. And it was like, "Okay, I got it."
I can't wait to talk about it. It was an awesome experience.
Dude, it was great. So we got to talk about that in depth. Black Belt CBD. Some really fun events happened this weekend, and it's again, it's great to cover this stuff. So in news this week, there's really not a whole lot of news. Basically, everyone's preparing for us to commentate SAGC coming up, so it's been nice and quiet.
Hell yeah.
But in big news,
Paulo Miao has finally returned to the IBJJF competition after a long hiatus for suspension. It's going to be exciting. I have a feeling he's going to be back kind of with a vengeance.
dude, he already took gold this week at just an open IBJJF in Miami.
Yeah.
So he back.
He's back, and especially with
How good his brother's been doing recently.
Yeah.
It's been, to have both of them back is great. I hope he does not get suspended again. There's some, Full Grappling has an article about it that has a little more information in depth, and they link to another article that because he was at a recent World Grappling Championship that he was technically banned from too. That was one where he competed in the first round.
right, and then they found out and pulled him
At the
but
second round. It was
He's
like,
had
what?
competition since then, right? He had
Well,
the Grippo.
He just can't compete in stuff that's under WADA.
Right.
That's what it was. So he was only banned from competition that was like WADA sanctioned competitions.
But also, the suspension lifted a little while ago. It's just that this
Like
is his
September-
first IBJJF event.
I want to say it listed in like September 29th was when we looked it up like probably like 8 months ago or a year ago, and it was like September 28th, 29th is I think when it lifted. So October 21st, he waited like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I imagine he's itching to collect some more medals there. So
Yeah, I mean we've seen him in other stuff, but to be back on the IBJJF circuit, like to go hunt for the world titles again, it'll be exciting. So, Emil, you got any other news really?
that's about it. Just us, throwing down on the mic over at SAGC.
Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome.
So yeah,
man.
we're gonna preview that whole event at the end of the episode as per usual. Go through the recaps at the beginning of the show, and then move on to the previews at the end of it. So that does it for news. On to the recaps. So on to the recap of Fight to Win 90 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This event paid out a total of $30,424 in salaries and commissions and was headlined by JT Torres versus Dylan Royce. This event was awesome. Again, I love going to these events in Philly. I've gone to, I want to say, 2 Fight to Wins at the 2300 Arena in Philly, and I've been to an MMA fight there as well. And dude, that arena is great. Philly has some awesome fans, and that crowd gets live for their guys. They show up.
Dude, it was so loud at some points. It was awesome to see. Like, the energy just elevated it so much. It made it such a different experience from watching the stream. Like I can't stress this enough, but absolutely go and see these events.
This is your first one, right?
This is my first
Yeah,
time,
dude,
and
it's a
so
party.
awesome. And so much of this is we've had teammates compete on these things, and now I'm honestly, like, the next time they're around, I just want to grab some friends and go. I'm gonna know people on that card, but I actually prefer almost like not to have that stress. Like, oh man,
We had no teammates on the card.
right? So
we had guys from,
we got to enjoy.
I had guys from my affiliation on,
Right.
and guys that you used to be affiliated with were
Yes.
on the card, but it wasn't like anyone that we were like, oh god, this guy's got to win. It was just like
You didn't
I
have
got
that
to
nervousness.
go. Yeah, I got to go and just like watch good grappling. And it was really cool to be able to talk to like a bunch of different fighters on the card. Again, there's so many guys there. I never get a chance to talk to everyone I want to, but again, Philadelphia is such a cool. It's like a smaller arena, so the guys finish their matches and then just kind of walk into the crowd and like talk to John Battle, talk to Dylan, talk to a bunch of different, talk to Gary Tonin.
Dude, yeah, he was just there enjoying the matches, having a beer. Didn't seem like he was coaching.
Yeah, I didn't ever see him behind to like. I didn't think he had any guys on the card that he was coaching. It wouldn't have surprised me, but I didn't see him in the red corner or the blue corner at any point that night, like coaching. He just seemed to show up and just
have
be
a
walking
good time.
around.
I know that speaks to what kind of an event this is, what kind of an experience it is. It's really meant to just, sit down, enjoy. I love that you can, have food, have beer, and watch this the same way that you'd watch, MMA fights or anything like that.
They call it the biggest party in grappling for a reason. Like they're having a party.
Yo, how about that disco ball too?
Yeah, I love the disco ball.
200-pound disco ball. It was amazing and like so theatrical. The whole event.
Yeah, you got a really cool photo of it. Like it's right above the mat, and there's a light that shined onto it. And Emil got this really cool picture. I'll post it up on the Instagram of the disco ball hitting it and like going throughout the entire arena. It was again, it was a super cool atmosphere. Philly is always great. This is the second event I've been up to in Philly. Like it's only like an hour and 45, 2-hour drive for me.
Yeah,
so it's
totally worth it. Absolutely worth it.
I was pissed though. I had to miss some of the matches because I got off. It was like I didn't schedule it, so I didn't want to take off work because I'm about to take off a huge chunk of November, and I'm like, I don't want to whittle away my time off even more. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get to work. I'm gonna get there early, leave like a little like earlier because I got there early. Book it up to Philly. I was like, if traffic bones me, it's
all
gonna
good,
suck.
Man. I got you covered. I was there, as you said, at 4:45, and like the fight to win people were so cool. They were unbelievably welcoming and professional, and it was smooth as hell. And getting in there and hearing the bass rumbling it got me so pumped. Like I can't stress this enough. Like
these guys used to run rock concerts.
You can tell there's a reason why they're no sleep. No sleep crew. Absolutely. Like they are professional. They knock everything out. They
don't fuck up names like we do.
No.
I talked to Dylan, so I got to watch a bunch of matches with Dylan. Like talk to him, just dude's the main event, just like willing to talk to my ass for at length. And I was like, please, like, let me know how to pronounce your name because I believe I've called you Dylan Hoyce on the show like repeatedly. Is it Hoyce or is it Royce? He goes, it's Royce.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just happy you guys are doing it. So I was like, cool, man, thanks. Let me not continue to fuck up your name as I've now had like a lengthy conversation with you. I got to watch the John Battle match, talking to him like while I was watching that match. That was really cool to hear his perspective on watching that match. So you got anything else you want to talk about? Or you want to move into the results?
Let's do it.
All right, let's move up to the black belt matches. So first black belt match of the evening, we had Sarah Block defeating Vanessa Wexler via Bravo choke. So it's listed as Bravo choke, but I thought this was a cross collar from the guard.
It was, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And it was, standard bread and butter there. It was one of those.
I didn't think she was going to get her.
Oh, yeah, no, it was.
I mean, when looking at it after the fact, I was like, oh, it really was super fucking deep.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just, it's again, not a submission you don't see very often, but goddamn, black belts are really good. And so, you can, I think these were 125ers too. So it's like, again, smaller people, you get the hands like deeper in. I find that I have much more problems with collar chokes and like those particular like forearm chokes from smaller people because they don't have as much hand meat they've got to get across. And smaller people and much, much bigger people. Like you see, what's his name? Hodger.
I was about to say Hodger.
Hodger, because he got those. Apparently Hodger has like dinner plate sized hands.
Yeah.
So it's like you see with huge handed people and like little people that hit those. So
absolutely.
It's interesting to see it from that position. Next match we had Chris Diaz defeating David Escobar via decision. We had Tim Carpenter defeating Drew Puzon via decision. We had, man, give me the name again, Emil.
Raji Bryson Barrett.
Okay, defeating Stephen Pyler via clock choke. Let's talk about this match, Emil.
Yeah, it was, it starts off with, really high-level guard by Stephen, but Raji's just dominating this, and ultimately he starts to get, he passes, he gets up the side, starts setting up an Ezekiel.
From the top at that point.
From the top.
Yeah.
And they start rolling, and they hit the edge of the match.
And the ref goes, oh, stop. And they're not. The guy, he's not really like completely on the back yet, but he's like basically there.
Yeah, he took the pause to get that last hook in, and
the ref's kind of like moving him and looking, and then Seth comes to the mic and goes, drag him
without missing a beat. I mean, he's laser focused. Like there's no pause. He tells the refs to drag him, but unfortunately, like
the ref had already indicated, like, okay, break, we're going to go back to the center.
So
and I've talked about this last week. The policy for Fight to Win is, at least my understanding of the last rules meeting I was at, which was the last Maryland card, which, again, I need to look up what number that was because this has happened 2 weeks in a row. The last Maryland card, they said, if you're rolling off the mat and they stop it, both people stop, nobody moves, they get refs, they drag you to the center of the mat, and then they continue.
So they didn't do that this time. They both competitors walked to the center of the mat, and
I think the ref knew he could recreate it close enough.
Yeah, but you could tell that both competitors were starting to gripe about it, and I think this is why Seth has this policy, is because, of course, they're going to try to get
it led to the finishing sequence.
Yeah, and, people are going to game minute grip changes and foot positions and things like that.
Especially a black belt.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Rajid's on the back there, and I think he gets a little bit of a better position. Again, not hugely better position, but it's definitely like he's settled into the back now as opposed to like kind of rolling off, and they restart, and really cool transition.
So Steven is trying to spin out, and he gets up to all fours, and without missing any momentum at all, Raji sinks in a clock choke that is just, it's one of those, you can see Raji drop his weight, and he's suspending his weight off of his grips, so it's like, it is just
there are
in there.
Very few things in jiu-jitsu that look like a clock choke.
Yeah,
honestly, it's like one of those. It is one of those submissions, one of those positions in jiu-jitsu. It's like, oh, that's the only thing that looks even remotely close to that.
Yeah,
is a clock choke.
You can tell because their hips turn all the way
up, and you're like sitting on top of a guy's shoulders with your hips facing the ceiling, as opposed to pretty much any other position in jiu-jitsu where it's in any position where someone would be turtled like that.
Yep.
Your hips will never be up away from them. It's the only position like that in jiu-jitsu, and so it's
he gets the tap. Raji wins by clock choke.
Next match, we had Brad Court defeating Sean Bolito via Ezekiel from the back. We see a ton. I think this rear naked choke and bow and arrow choke are the most common things we see. Ezekiel from the back, we usually see termed in results as choke from the back.
Right.
Like whenever it's some sort of collar choke from the back, I want to say like 80% of times, we're reading through like legacy results on something like BJJ Heroes or something, you read like choke from the back. It's like, that was pretty probably an Ezekiel from the back, or like a one-arm collar choke or something. It's usually Ezekiel from the back. So I don't really have much else to add, but I want to mention that whenever you see a result and it's choke from the back, it's usually Ezekiel from the back.
I remember us talking about this.
Yeah.
So Jay Cox defeats Steve Matias by knee bar. Will Martinez defeats David Porter by decision.
Super embarrassing thing happened about this.
Yeah,
not about this match, but you were. I was in the back. I was talking to some people, and you were with one of our training partners, Jeff Mount, and you were talking to people when in the stand still.
Yep,
and apparently you guys talked to David Porter.
Yeah, so this is before his match. He stops by because he and Jeff had competed against each other before, and they were friendly, and they were catching up. And I got to shoot the shit with him.
And he's one of the guys on the card I wanted to talk to.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the back, and so I get back to my seat, and Emil's like, "Oh, we talked to Porter." I'm like, "Fuck, I want to talk to Porter." All right, well, I'll hopefully get a chance. The black belts hadn't gone yet at that point, and it's like hopefully I got a chance at some point to talk to him tonight because he had an interview on the Grappling Union podcast a couple months ago. That was one of the coolest interviews I think they've ever done. He talked about how insane he is with all his stats. Like he has statistics for how he passes on his left side. Like what points in matches he's gotten points with certain passes on his left side.
I think we talked about this last week too. Yeah, I remember you mentioning
just this. Crazy stats tracking. He actually showed me on his phone because we got to talk to him later that night. Showed me on his phone all of it. So the event ends. Again, this story kind of jumps all around. The event ends. I haven't got a chance to talk to David Porter, and we're all like, all right, let's all get food.
So we go and we get, of course, Philly steak subs
at Tony Luke's.
It was amazing.
It's like super close. It's like a half mile from the arena, or like a
quarter
mile.
Yeah.
It's right next to 25.
That's how you know it's legit. It's like a sandwich shop in the middle of an industrial area, right? Like you got all these like truckers and stuff going there. It's not the touristy stuff.
And it's like 11:30, and like probably 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
And we're standing in the line, and I see a guy in front of me, and I was like, oh, this guy competed. I don't remember his name, but I know he competed. And I'm talking to this guy, and we're talking about the match, talking about jiu-jitsu and everything in general. And as we're waiting to get in line to get our food. And the guy gets his food and walks away. And Emil looks at me like wide-eyed and goes, "Do you know who that is?" I was like, "No." He goes, "That's David Porter." I was like, "Fuck." Like, I'm a huge fan of the guy. Completely didn't like. I don't know if his beard changed something. Also thought he was like 6'7". I don't know why. And he's like similar to my size, so I was like, I just thought he was like 6'7".
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
And so I, went over to his table after. I was like, hey, I'm an idiot. And we talked at length after that, and it was super nice guy. And it was great to get a chance to talk to him and tell him his interview was awesome.
And also like his, just to hear his insights on jiu-jitsu and talking kind of about his mentality going into the match and what he was prepping for. He was talking with Jeff about this, so it's really, really cool.
Yeah, this is a really fun match too as well. Remember, I think Will Martinez is a really dope competitor. So is Porter. So I would actually go back and watch, even though it's a decision, go back and watch this match because it's fun. There's a really cool takedown that happens in this match.
Yeah, and one thing that David was mentioning was he was talking about how versatile Will is and how he was having. He, unlike most competitors, he didn't have a specific A game where David could prepare for that. Will, evidently, some weeks will pull guard, some weeks he'll just do takedowns and things like that. So it's really from week to week. So, that versatility played out in his favor in this match. So
yeah, it was a really fun match to watch. Next match, we have Pete Shoemaker defeating Matt Schellenschlager via bow and arrow choke.
Oh, my Lord. Matt was out cold for this bow and arrow.
He gets put to sleep.
Yep.
I honestly, I might be weird. Maybe it's because I have no respect for chokes and will go to sleep between 3 and 4 times a year.
Yeah, don't do that.
I think in 2018, I made a resolution on the podcast to not go to sleep as much. I think I've only been put to sleep like once-ish this year.
Good.
I've gone almost to sleep like a bunch of times, but I think I've only gone unconscious like one time this year. So I always love it when dudes, especially in pro events like this and like big events, go and fight the choke until the bitter end.
So Schellenschlager is allowed to do that. He has money and reputation on the mat. You are doing this during training when you have.
I think I can get out. I think I can get out of the choke, and then I learn I can't.
Man, keep those brain cells, man. Come on.
And we're rough as it is. I need to save what I can. So again, a fun match. Matt goes out in the bow and arrow choke.
Yep.
And super cool. He's one of the few guys from the local area, like our area. He trains at BJJ Conquest.
Yeah.
Down in Millersville, I think.
Okay, I'm not sure where it is, but
It's
I know
literally
Conquest
right
for sure.
next to where a fourth or a third of all the tournaments in Maryland happen.
Right.
At the Benefield Sports Center. So
Yep.
their gym is literally a stone. So you can probably hit that other arena from their gym, and you drive down there all the time if you're a Maryland competitor because there are events there for competitions and tournaments all the time. Like every month or every other month, there is an event in that arena. So that was that match. On to the next match, we had Nick Calvanese defeating Ed Sheridan via Kimura.
This was a prolific beatdown. Nick is a beast.
Dude, he headlined the Philly card last time.
Yeah, I remember.
Versus Dorino last time.
Yep. And this was, I don't have a number for the dangerous sub attempts that he had in this, and he ended up finishing with a brutal Kimura.
Dude, it was because it was one of those Kimuras where you see a guy get it and just grip and rip.
Right.
And the other guy doesn't have the grip in place, or he gets the grip broken.
Yes.
And the arm just goes out, and you're like, ooh.
This was not one of those, you lock the Kimura grip, and then you kind of start
fighting,
tugging and tugging and tugging, and, maybe the person's arm gets tired after a few minutes of this. This was just, he rolled, snapped the Kimura on, kept rolling, and then there was a very rapid tap. So
it was honestly, the finishing sequence in this match was really, really cool. I want to see, because for me, when Nick finished, he had Ed belly down almost in the finishing sequence here. So it was a position you don't see a lot of Kimuras finished in that way. So I actually want to go back and watch this again to take a look at exactly where he is and how he's finishing this Kimura. Because again, it was so quick and he'd hip through. Then something special happens in this match. Nick gets his victory, and then the music changes.
He gets a different kind of lockdown.
Different kind of lockdown.
He calls his girlfriend onto the mats.
And at that point, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And she knows, and the crowd knows, and Seth changes the music.
And there's a proposal right there, and obviously she said yes. And so congratulations to
it's awesome.
Nick Calvanese and his new fiance.
Whose name I didn't catch.
Yeah. It felt like it would have been a little creepy to approach them afterwards to ask questions about that.
I didn't ask him about it. I was like,
right.
hey, congratulations.
Talk to him about
I talked about his match.
Yeah, exactly.
I tried to ask everyone on this card that I talked to, basically there's about 50% of the people I talk to are going to compete at the trials. That's where we're going to see him next. Because whenever we are at events, we always like to, congratulate guys on their performance, like talk to them a little bit what their game plan was going into the match, as well as talk about what the next thing we're going to see him on. Because sometimes they'll talk to us about events that we weren't aware of, because there's so many events in jiu-jitsu. A lot of times that stuff slips through the cracks. We don't get a chance to see it beforehand. And so guys will tell us, I'm on this event. I'm like, okay, what's that event? Get to write it down, get to go look at it. Okay, is it a broadcast event? Is it a gym event? Is it like a non-broadcast event? Is it a tournament? And I asked him what his next match was, and he was like, oh, yeah, I'm fighting Devontae Jones and next weekend. And I went, in my head, I'm an idiot. I knew about that match. I was excited about that match.
Yes.
Devontae Jones talked about that match in his interview on Grappling Union podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, cool. So I thanked him and then left after that.
But we are still excited to see that match. That's
Dude,
awesome.
I'm amped about the match. That's why I knew it. Like,
Yeah.
I knew the match was happening, so I was amped about it, but I fucked it up.
Hey, it's all
So
good.
next match we had...
Hey. We haven't said this dude's name yet. We still haven't said this dude's name yet. I'm fucking pumped for it. Baret motherfucking Yoshida was on this card, and this was just like the icing on the cake for me, just to get to see him compete live.
You're a big Yoshida fan?
Yeah, he's old school, man. Like,
He's old school as shit.
yeah, it's awesome to see it.
He's the guy. You know the video of him. He is one of the few guys that plays back crucifix.
Yes.
We're gonna get into that here in a minute with this match versus Kristian Woodmansee. He has an older video of him in a tournament. I don't know where the tournament was, where he's in the back crucifix and he's crushing this guy's face with like the blade of his forearm, lifting the guy's nose up and basically trying to either break the guy's nose or get the guy to give him the choke.
Yeah.
And it's attritive.
Yeah.
It's a couple minutes of Baret just like crushing this guy's face. And then eventually he gets the choke in and the guy taps and you see the guy like touch his face and nose, like, what just happened? Is my nose broken? Is it not broken? Like, I don't know what just happened to me. So whenever I have students ask, like, hey, is that legal to, like, pull the nose? I show them that video and go, completely legal.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, so I got a big soft spot for Baret Yoshida because he is an outstanding teaching aid for me at the gym. Like, hey, just so you're aware, what that dude did, completely legal.
Absolutely. And also his ridiculous rolling back takes are totally legal, which
Oh my God.
He is so limber. It's insane how mobile he is. And, he's this grizzled old dude, like, with huge cauliflower ears, and he's bouncing around, outpacing Kristian Woodmansee. Like, it was...
Who is a ranked IBJJF roosterweight.
I know.
Like, really fucking good roosterweight.
Young, like...
He's got to be... We talked about this. He's got to be Atos' smallest black belt.
Yeah. It was amazing to see Baret have no problem controlling that at all. And ultimately, he won. Baret wins by an anaconda choke.
It was submission of the night for the black belts, too.
Yes, and this is, this whole match was amazing, too. Just go back and watch the whole
You very rarely see dudes, especially at a high level, play the back crucifix. And Baret Yoshida rolls over at one point with the back crucifix.
At one point, we were talking about this, where I was marveling, like, man, I said the exact same question, like, man, how often do you see a back crucifix?
And I said, how often do you watch Baret Yoshida?
Yeah. Smart ass.
I was like, pretty much,
Yeah,
because
aside
you said
from
it in that
Baret.
dumb way. You were like, you said it like it was amazing. Like, how often do you see back crucifix? Like, yeah, every time you watch Baret Yoshida.
Yeah, but I'm saying, again, and I'm going to repeat what I said, but I'm saying, outside of Baret Yoshida, when was the last time you saw a back crucifix in any of these events?
Honestly, I really can't think of.
It doesn't happen.
You see it in the gi occasionally because guys get caught up with the Kimura grip on the arm.
Yeah.
And you see, the guys will loop the leg through and get it there. But in a no-gi match,
I can't think of the last
because
one.
it's so hard to control.
Yeah.
Like, because you've got to keep their shoulders really tight to your chest, and you just aren't able to see. A lot of guys aren't able to do that for any amount of time and actually keep the crucifix there. So we got to see that, and we got to see him get an anaconda choke basically off of that and get submission of the night, and he becomes the black belt no-gi bantamweight champion, which I think Kristian's going up in weight class here because when I was at Philly, I got to talk to him during the last Philly card at length because he was cornering one of his guys who was also on the card. We'll talk about him in the brown belts. And he was like 127 with shit in his pockets, jeans on and shirt and shoes on.
Yep.
And I was like, so there's no way he's had to be going up for this match to bantamweight unless he's put on some size. But Woodmansee did not look any bigger than he did last time in Philly.
Yeah, but also Baret didn't look like.
No, it didn't look like a huge size difference, but it was
Yeah.
interesting to see them at bantamweight because I am not used to. At least I'm
Kristian
not
being
as
there,
familiar
yeah.
with Woodmansee in these
Yeah.
sort of settings being a bantamweight. Again,
Yep.
I know he has done it. I'm just more familiar with him at the lower weight classes in IBJJF at roosterweight.
Yeah. Well,
So-
either way, go back and watch this match. It's
Oh, yeah, it was
amazing.
an awesome match.
Barn burner.
So, final match for the black belts: JT Torres defeating Dylan Royce via armbar. JT Torres is really fucking good.
So going into this, Dylan Royce was 6-0 in Fight to Win, which is
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, he's
That's-
a really good competitor too.
Yeah.
At black belt.
Outstanding. But there's levels to this game. And JT Torres
Dude,
is
JT Torres is a
monster.
2017 ADCC champion who beat Lucas Lepre
Yep.
to win that championship.
Yeah.
He outpointed Lepre.
Yep.
Got past his guard.
Yeah.
Like,
He's a
man,
savage.
he is so good. Like, he was doing something really cool here. He had mount on Dylan at one point, and Dylan would go to bump, and Torres would switch his hips over to like a locked. You had a name for it.
No, I didn't have a name for it, but I think Jeff or someone we were talking to has a name for it, something like super mount. But basically, every time JT got bumped up from mount, he would crush Dylan's legs together and sort of pin them together under his hips.
Kind of like Khabib style almost.
Exactly like Khabib style. So very, very powerful position. You know,
Yeah,
once
he
you
was
get
able
there.
he was able to hold mount really, really well there. And again, the dexterity of his ability to get around, and it was a really impressive performance against a really good guy. And again, I hope to see him at the trials. Again, if you're a ADC champion, do you get a buy into the next one? Right?
I think you do. Yes, I think you do. And but
so we're
then
probably going to see him at
there's-
ADCC.
there's like 3 ways of getting in. You can get grandfathered in from a previous one,
Right,
You
which is
can-
what Torres can do.
Right.
You can get the
you can trial in, right?
and
You can
yeah,
qualify.
there's the other
The
word.
third one is just like
It's a
the-
buy. It's something.
no, the Sheik is basically like, I like you, I want you to
yeah,
fight.
there's a
It's
word.
an invitation.
There's
Yeah.
a term for it though, because Gary Tonin said, yeah, unless I get an X, like I'm probably not going to do it.
Right.
And I forget what the term. He was like a. It's like an.
It's basically an invitation.
Yeah, it's an invitation to come in. Basically, those are the 3 ways that you can get into ADCC. So hopefully we'll see JT at ADCC soon. So on to the brown belt results. Let's go to a really, really fucking good match for the title. John Battle versus Dennis Pressey Jr. So Pressey was trying to become champ. And John Battle is the current champ.
He
was
had
trying
some
to not
words.
let
He-
that happen.
He had some thoughts about
Yeah,
that.
because Pressey's the current champ at 145 for
Yep.
brown belt in the gi. We actually saw him win that last time in Philly. And Battle is the champ at 145 in no gi. And he put on performance in this, which everyone knows Battle as a leg lock guy. Or thinks of him as a leg lock guy. His back control in this is amazing.
It was unbelievable. The way he was able to snake his legs around to sort of not, whatever the back equivalent of regarding is, whatever, getting that hook
Yeah.
back in. It was amazing to watch.
So I got a chance to talk to him about this. I was like, hey, what are you looking to do trials? He's like, yeah, I'm looking to do trials. B, what are you doing there? Because what I saw here was he's super flexible, and I saw him fighting his leg that he was trying to trap Dennis's hand with over Dennis's shoulder instead of like under his arm. So he's super flexible, and he's able to actually lift his leg over and fight from the top position across the body as opposed to having to fight underneath the arm. It was really interesting. And he talked about, they've been working the Danaher back system, that DVD. They've been working through that at their gym. And he trains mostly gi.
Interesting.
Which I would not have picked that up at
I
all.
wouldn't have guessed that at all.
Nope,
He
he
seemed
trains mostly
totally
in the gi.
natural in no-gi. So.
Yeah, and I usually see him competing in no-gi.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting. Like, he's a guy that's known for his leg game and known for his back game, trains primarily in the gi, but just has these, amazing performances in no-gi.
Yeah, he was on the back for 2-3 minutes, no problem. So John Battle
Oh, he was on the back for the majority of this match, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets there and he just stays there and wins the decision over Dennis Pressey.
Yeah, so it was a really good match. Go back and watch that match as well. Next brown belt match, we have Felipe Rocha defeating Dom Tabata via decision. He becomes the fight to win brown belt light heavyweight champion. Next match, we had Kyle Myers defeating Jake Skelly via arm and guillotine. That was submission tonight for the brown belts.
Daniel Maria defeating Kevin Lynch via choke. Azuna Anyawu defeats Brian Sheehan by decision. Abi Passanelli defeats Rachel Beach by decision. Matt Kelly defeats Keith Patterson by heel hook. Robbie Della Rionda defeats Orlando Rodas by decision. Zach Shimos defeats George Strunk by armbar. Jack Tankersley defeats Yahel Luna by armbar.
Yeah, names are hard, aren't they?
Yeah, they're hard when they're Tankersley.
Yeah.
Steven Eisner defeats Brian Dumoro by decision. Des McDonald defeats Chris Gonzalez by decision.
And that was fight of the night for the brown belts.
Sean Karn defeats Evan Zarimba by decision.
Now on to the purple belt results. Christopher Thomas defeats Dylan Irving via split decision. Yarn Henley defeats Daniel Godkilligan by decision. Nate Twyer defeats Dylan Irving by armbar. Nicholas Wiley defeats Stanley Zabriskie the fourth via armbar. Jay Raddick defeats Roel Slutter via split decision. Vinny Ostrolago defeats Evan Thompson via decision. Corey Nasworth defeats Mike Prunick via armbar. Felipe Ferreira defeats Craig McDonald's via decision. That was fight of the night for the purple belts. Joe Ravello defeats Rich Signs via flying armbar. That was submission of the night for the purple belts.
Yeah, this was before you showed up, Maine. It was a flying armbar. It was amazing. It was one of those, you blink and you miss it, or, you don't come on time and you miss it.
And look, I hit traffic coming into Philly, and I also looped around the block because I had Josh turn off the GPS. I was like, I know where I am. And then I tried to turn up a one-way street. He went, that's one way. And I went, all right, turn GPS back on. I got to loop around the block again.
Well, it was a dope finish, so.
All right, so Chris White defeats Paul Brunley via heel hook. And on the teen results, dude, the teen matches for this were absolutely outstanding. We had Peter King defeating John Marks via Ezekiel choke. That was submission of the night for the teens. And we had Michael Gillen defeating Jason Chegg via decision. They put these pretty high up in the card, deservedly so.
Yeah, this was an awesome. I love Fight to Win mixing purple belt, brown belt team matches.
Because the team matches they have are because the purple belt matches they have are regular to really good competitive purple belts. They have a mixture.
Right.
The teen matches are always two-time Pan American champion. Oh, world champion in this. The team matches they always have are always super credentialed teams.
Oh, dude, yeah. These kids we're talking about it, they would wreck us,
calm down, Emil. I will not get beat by another child in competition versus the last child to beat me in
famous
competition.
last words before going unconscious, man.
Dude, I got beat by the blue belt world champion in my last competition 2 weeks before he won his world championship.
Dude, Jeff Mount, our training partner who we were there with, was talking about how he got submitted by John Battle when John Battle was a teen and Jeff Mount was a blue belt in competition. So, yeah, it happens,
Yeah, it does happen. It's making funny. But I think we talked about it on the show when it happened. I competed, and then I was talking about, I'm not sure if it makes it better or worse that he won the Worlds and I got beat by a kid. I'm like, I don't know. But, yeah, dude, Seth always has, really, really good teams on the card. So they put this, way higher up in the card, and sometimes they have it right at the beginning. Sometimes they have it in the way up on the card. When it's way up on the card, watch those fucking matches.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to say, absolutely go back and watch the Daniel Myra versus Kevin Finch match. It was awesome. That was Daniel Myra winning by cross collar from the back, and it was so good. It was absolutely really, really barn burner of a match.
So I've gone back and watched some of this on Flow Grappling because the whole video is up, the whole broadcast is up. It's not partitioned out in individual fights when we were recording this on Sunday night. Commentary's good.
Yeah,
I was really pleased with the commentary.
It was really surprising to watch this without commentary.
Yeah, and to look at the angle we had versus what the angle the camera has. I'm like, oh, it's really cool. I'm not used to. Again, we go to these occasionally, but I'm not used to seeing it and then seeing it from a different angle later. I'm like, oh yeah, I was at this. I saw this instead, and going back and looking at the video is it's just really cool. So again, outstanding event. Anything else you want to talk about, Emil?
Nah, so good though.
Yeah, cannot wait for the next one. So on to our recap of the Black Belt CBD Oil Invitational. I think it's just the Black Belt CBD Invitational. We're going to look at the results here from a BJJ Heroes page because I watched the event, really enjoyed the event, didn't take notes. Dude, so for stuff, how it works, how I always work for the show, you may work differently. I think you work differently.
I did work differently.
I watched the event one time, and then I will go back and take notes.
Okay.
But as we were at Fight to Win on Friday, I watched this event on Saturday, and then didn't get a chance to rewatch it and take a bunch of notes. So I watched it, and then Emil.
I watched most of this event live and took notes as I was watching it like a responsible human being, Maine.
Nah, you're not wrong. You do 50 of these things, then get back at me.
Okay, fair enough.
So this event was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like they paid out 30 grand to the female division and to both men's divisions.
So the winner took home $30,000, which in and of itself is an incredible thing for jiu-jitsu, professional jiu-jitsu. I was just talking to Maine about this. That's on par with what ranked UFC fighters will make in a given card. That's
like on like a 15-15 contract.
Yeah,
like which is not, especially for the first couple fights a guy's contract. I think they start at
5.
No, they start at 10 now.
Oh, they
start,
do?
Yeah, 10
Okay.
and 10 is the low starting
Okay.
point for UFC.
Right.
For other promotions, like
sure.
it's not.
But that's
I've
incredible.
known guys, professional dudes that I've known make 400. I've known dudes on the upper in the card making 750.
Oh, sure. But I mean, still, that's incredible that as a grappler, which is way less hard on the body.
Dude, they paid Anna Vieira 30 grand for this event.
Right.
And they talked about it on the broadcast, like this is the most a female grappler has ever gotten paid for a professional
And
event.
it's equal to the male competitors. And if
Josh
this,
has been talking about this for years.
Yeah.
He's talked about it on the show.
this is how you
a
get
while.
women interested in it. And honestly, I think the women should have been paid equal to or more in this particular event because those matches were more entertaining.
They put on a fucking show.
They were freaking fire, man. And so this, from a professional standpoint, excellent. Really excited to see
super.
this
Production
event.
quality was really good. There was some little blips in the stream. We'll talk about that at the end of it.
But the commentary, man.
Dude, I love Drysdale on commentary.
He's so good.
He's a historical commentator.
Yes.
So he gives you because again, he's been there. He's a world champ. He's not former world champion, a world champion. But he's been there. He's trained with all these guys. He knows all these camps. He's been part of the sport for so long. Like he just knows everyone's backstory.
And he does such a good job at, flow, talking about techniques, telling these historical facts without it being like old man
He doesn't go into story time,
Right.
which is Josh and I hate with guys like there's a really cool piece of a match happening and somebody's telling you about a story about this one time they trained with a guy. He never does that.
No.
He talks about the match, and then when there's a lull, he'll talk about a technique he's seeing, and then someone else he's seen historically use that technique really well. Oh yeah, this guy Turtle Guard, Tellus. He talked about that at length, and
that was fascinating.
it was really good. I was like, wow, that's I know the history, I know about it, I've seen it, but to hear a guy that was there talk about it and be coherent on the mic. I miss who the other guy was on the mic.
Dave, I couldn't catch his last name, so.
But he was good as well. But I love listening to Drysdale on the mic because he's good. I also like that he did the post-fight interviews. He speaks English and Portuguese.
Oh yeah, fluently. So outstanding event. Really good.
Let's move into the first bracket. And the first bracket we had the first bracket is the middleweight bracket, and we had DJ Jackson defeating Rafael Domingos via points. Oh, so quick aside. So they were running with the ACBJJ rule set. So basically, it's 3 rounds, 5 minutes per round. If the round is a draw, each competitor gets 10 points. If you win on a submission, it ends the match completely. And if it goes to, I think it's a certain amount of points, it's a 10-9 round, and if it's more than that, it's a 10-8 round.
Did you mean ADCC?
What'd I say?
ACBJJ.
Yeah, ACBJJ.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
it's okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's like ACBJJ rules. It's not ACC rules, it's ACBJJ rules.
Cool.
They have the multiple rounds. They have the point system
Yep.
where you can get 10-9, 10-8 rounds, and then if it goes to decision, the person with the least amount of penalties will win, and then if that's not a criteria, then it goes to ref's decision at the end. So that's what system we're running, which Drysdale is the commentator for ACBJJ, so it made sense to have him on this event as well, because he understood that point system and could explain it really well on the mic.
So I want to talk about this system a little bit because I'm not totally sold on it. 3 5-minute rounds, I didn't see. So the idea being that if you're down 2 10-9 rounds, allegedly in the last match you really
sell out for it.
Yeah, but when were people not doing that? I didn't see the round.
You didn't see the level of urgency in that third round that you'd think you would saw if you know you were down in the round.
The sort of strategy of being in different positions in terms of your round record didn't really play out. For
I
two
think
reasons.
It's really hard. Sorry, you say your reasons, then I'll say my reasons.
So the first is if you're practicing a game, you're practicing a certain takedown or technique or any number of things. It's not going to be quite, that's what you're going to be focusing on. Yeah, there's some situational awareness that you're going to have, but it's not going to fundamentally change. Like, okay, I'm going to go to a completely, let me bust out my super secret A.
And yeah, because the guys at the high level are going to do it.
They're just going to do their A game.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, you're exhausted as well, and you're just.
Guys tend to get more defensive when they get exhausted as well.
And you tend to do the things that you do all the time when you're that tired.
So the thing I think with this rule set, and this is again the event was good. Let's not color that.
Oh yeah.
But we tend to see with the ACBJJ rule set, we tend to see a lot of matches go to decision, and I think partially that's because guys are so good. With a 5-minute match, it takes a while to get going, and because you have more time, like guys are a little more cautious going because they know they have the later rounds to maybe get something else going or maybe make the guy make a mistake. They have 15 minutes theoretically for their opponent to be able to make one mistake, and at the high level, it really only takes one mistake. Right. That's why you're a big fan, I know, of the UAJJF rule set. The Abu Dhabi rule set for their terms because it's only a 6-minute match at Black Belt. We tend to have a lot more activity in those matches. Again, they're just different rule sets. I find that, again, the same thing that you find is that a lot of guys going in with their A game, that 5-minute rule set, it's really a small amount of time to get that game going on another really high-level guy. Like every single person in all of these brackets, the men's brackets, the women's brackets, the middleweights, the heavyweights, everyone's really, really good.
Right. This definitely felt more like 15-minute matches than
it really did.
So, but the talent was amazing. The jiu-jitsu was amazing. It's a great event. But I just think starting to see all of these different promotions, see how rule sets can impact your product and what you're seeing.
But again, I do like the different rule sets because you get to see guys shine under a different rule set. Maybe there's something that we haven't seen that we do see as a result of this, which is cool.
Going back to it, this rule set is very good for DJ Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
dude, he's a grinder.
Oh, yeah.
Him, Agazarm, like the guys will, good luck getting him out of your guard.
Yep.
Good luck getting him off of you.
Yep.
Good luck taking his ass down.
You are going to be exhausted, too, because you're going to be, battling the whole time. These guys don't turn off at all.
No.
And DJ is a truck, and he absolutely brought the heat to Rafael Domingos with lots of takedown attempts. So, stand-up is exhausting. We all know that.
Yeah. Next match we had Gilbert Burns defeating Marcelo Lapella Mafra via points. Again, a lot of stand-up. But then this is kind of how, in these super fights, this is kind of how what we see Burns do. Like Burns and Jackson both are going to play that heavy stand-up pressure wrestling game, and they're really only going to go for something if they can't get anything else going. And both of them play that game. So it's going to be really hard. There's a lot of pushing, a lot of back and forth, and very little groundwork in this match.
And the final was Gilbert Burns defeating DJ Jackson via points, and that was a grueling match.
There was three in the third round. So the first 2 rounds were good, but there was, again, that lot of back and forth. You saw Gilbert get the back at one point.
Yep.
And then they kind of went out of bounds. And then in the third match of this, we saw Dorino turn on the afterburners.
Oh, man.
And get DJ's back repeatedly.
Absolutely savage at this point. And it again kind of opens your eyes to the levels here, and just to be able to go 15 minutes after having gone 15 minutes before with DJ Jackson and then take his back
and hold his back. I mean,
dude,
finish with him on his back.
Just watching his biceps are freaking enormous. I don't know how, but hey, Gilbert's a beast too, so outstanding performance. And
so Gilbert takes home $30,000 for this win.
$30,000.
That's a good point. That's probably more than he makes. Now he's a pretty high level guy.
This
so he
is
probably
for
makes more.
A day of jiu-jitsu. So if he really wanted to,
I mean, you are a former world champion.
he could.
So, like, you earned it.
He
but-
earned it, yeah. But he could turn around next week, go out and earn some more money. That's awesome for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, he doesn't have to deal with, like, I just got a punch in the face. Because we got him get stopped in jiu-jitsu a couple months ago. I'm sorry, in MMA a couple months ago. And so, like, we saw him on the Polaris card that next week. But, yeah, he has another source of income now that's not necessarily just getting punched in the face. So, I like seeing jiu-jitsu guys stay in jiu-jitsu. And so if there's more money in these events, we can watch the dudes that do jiu-jitsu stay in jiu-jitsu. And that's great. So on to the women's bracket. You want to do the women's bracket first or the heavyweight bracket first?
We'll do the women's bracket because this was so awesome.
All right. We had Anna Vieira defeating Gabrielle Macomb via toe hold.
This was brutal. And in general, this match, Anna Vieira was just absolutely crushing.
She's
it.
really
She's
fucking
really good. I mean, like her being the sister of Rodolfo is obviously plays.
You called him Rodolfo.
Well, I'm doing it because Drysdale did it, and he speaks Portuguese.
Dude, I love
so.
Drysdale. Like, he's the reason we have. We have Herbert Santos instead of
we have Herbert
Santos.
because sometimes he
Sometimes
completely
he is
craps
Herbert
the bed.
Santos.
So, but Anna Vieira is absolutely savage, and towards the end of the third round, she's standing and going to pass open guard, and she says, "Nah, fuck it," and leaps into a brutal toe hold. I mean, just one of those, like, there was
one of the
probably
ones you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this in general, where toe holds are starting to come more and more.
Toe holds are now the heel hooks in the gi.
Yeah, they are. I think people are starting to realize that they're not this weird, exotic, thing, that they are very effective, and at the worst case, quick. They're effective, they're quick, and at the worst case, you cause the person to react and move, and that's there. Especially if you're attempting to pass guard, which is what was exactly happening here. So she gets the really quick sub. I'd be surprised if something didn't pop.
I mean, I hope not. I didn't see anything, but it was a very quick tap, and she moves on to the next one. So after that, we have Luisa Montero defeating Catherine Perret via armbar.
This was beautiful, and this was actually the first submission of the event. So again,
we read those out of order accidentally.
We did, but this was just goes to show you. I think the women absolutely proved that they deserve at least as much of the money. Yeah, and the matches were more exciting. Don't get me wrong; I love seeing Dorino and DJ Jackson, but these were more dynamic. The women's matches were way more.
Do you think?
Action.
So my question is: so we had the first bracket we just talked about was a no-gi bracket. This bracket was a gi bracket. Do you think that partially had to deal with it?
I think it has more to do with the strength to weight ratio. So the women are much lighter. If you had lighter matches, and don't get me wrong, these women competitors are also incredible. They're really, really talented.
They have top level women. They
Absolutely.
have really world class level women
right.
competing.
But I think in terms of the movement, I think it has more to do with the weight. And if we had the light weights and stuff
the lightweights,
like think about it.
You may see
men,
less of the pushing.
Out of the men, DJ Jackson was among the lighter ones, right? Like think about that. So
I agree. Yeah, DJ Jackson was probably one of the.
I think Tarsus was probably the lightest.
Maybe you think he's smaller than DJ?
Well, actually, that's a good point. He was up in the heavy. Yeah, so I think DJ is probably around. Yeah,
you just see much more heavy pressure wrestling in the guys at the higher weight classes. I think you're right. So yeah, having smaller women in this bracket probably led to a little more action.
Absolutely. So it's a great armbar. And dude, it was so awesome. So Luisa had Catherine in kind of like a really loose triangle, and Catherine stood up and got lifted Luisa off the mat, and Luisa just is like cool, and
she does that pendulum thing.
She does the pendulum thing while suspended. So she's just holding herself up, pendulums over, and gets the armbar. Yeah, it was so dope.
Usually when you see people go for this kind of armbar and they're stacked over like that, when someone goes to adjust out of the triangle and into the armbar, they kind of, a lot of times, in the gi not as much, but still you see it, will lose the arm. Not at all.
No.
Kept the hips in the exact same position, swung over, gets the tap, gets the victory, and moves on to the finals. So, anything else you want to talk about this match?
No, it was just
the way she set up the triangle was really cool, though. So, Catherine was trying to pass her open guard, and she just looped her leg over. and it was a really slick, like, little jump over of the hand to get both one arm in, one arm out for the triangle. So the whole setup for this was amazing. Go back and actually, if you get a chance, go back and watch this little sequence here. It was very, very interesting. It's super sneaky.
It is, and impressive in general.
So on the finals, we had Ana Vieira defeating Luisa Montera via points.
Yep, another savage match. It was really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot to say. It was back and forth. Ana Vieira just takes the points, gets the victory.
Yeah, grinds it out.
Yeah, let's move on to the heavyweight bracket. Again, this was in the gi, and this was fucking exciting. We have not seen Rodolfo Vieira compete in the gi in...
They said about 4 to 5 years, something like that.
I don't...
So he's been doing MMA recently.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, Kit Dale had a pretty strong hiatus, too, if you think about it.
Because Kit Dale left, he's like, I'm done with grappling. He was going to be an actor, and then that kind of...
Yeah.
He acted in some stuff.
I think he needed to kind of find this is my speculation, but I think he kind of needed to find himself. I remember, he was a hot prospect, and then he was getting thrashed.
Dude, he got black belt in what, like 3 years or something?
Something absurd like that. And then he started hitting the world
He started hitting those
level.
Big level guys. He was on Metamoris and stuff.
He was getting thrashed, man.
Yeah.
And like, this is just, and Kit is an amazing competitor. I'm so glad that he's back.
Dude, we just saw him beat Tommy Lineacker.
Yeah.
Like a couple weeks ago at ADCC.
I think he's sharpened his game up a little bit, and he's come back brutal now.
Mm-hmm.
Brutal.
But Rodolfo did not lose a step here. And again, the finishing sequence of this match was amazing. So Rodolfo gets on top of Kit Dale, and he hits Kit Dale with a violent arm lock from the top. And if you don't know what a violent arm lock is, a violent arm lock is basically where it's a straight arm lock where you've trapped their wrist at your neck and you've extended their arm out. So it looks like you're playing a violin. Richard Martinez does this a lot. I love it. It's my favorite arm lock.
Excruciating.
And he finished, and it's an arm lock you almost never see finished from the top, because to get out of it, typically all guys have to do is you're mounted and your arm is extended above, and your opponent has your hand trapped at their neck, and they do an arm crush kind of over the top there. And to get out of it, all you have to do is you have to basically pull your elbow to your body.
Yeah.
Which in that position is typically not too hard to do. Rodolfo was able to keep him there.
Yep.
And get the arm lock regardless.
I'm pretty sure that this was like at the buzzer that this happened, because
Dude,
I remember there was a second where we weren't sure if the first round ended or if he got in the sub, but ended up getting the sub. Also, this match was exactly why I love the commentators, because they were talking about Kit Dale, and they were saying, at this point, Rodolfo had already had him on the ground, and Kit Dale was swimming his butterfly hooks in, and they said, from this position, he really likes this kind of sumigaeshi kind of like lifting sweep. And then within seconds, he goes for it, and they were like, yep, there you go.
There it is.
Like, that's how good they know the competitors through and through. They've trained with them. Also about this match, just relearning about what a badass Rodolfo Vieira is. Like, dude, like we're talking about
he got out of jiu-jitsu right as I was really starting to come in and start to learn jiu-jitsu. So he was a guy, like, I've seen, I've looked at the Wikipedia articles, I've seen his matches, I've watched the footage, but like he's never really a guy that I got a chance to see in his prime.
I was still like a white belt, or maybe like purple, like early blue belt when he stopped competing. So I wasn't that aware of him, but going back and looking at this dude has...
Well, you were aware of him, just like you didn't get to see him compete in his prime. You saw him like, I've seen him as an MMA fighter more recently than I've seen him as a jiu-jitsu monster. But dude, so
5 world championships. 5 world championships.
2 different weight classes and absolute.
And an absolute in which he arm bars Buchecha and then beats Bernardo Faria 9-0 in the finals. That's bananas.
So he's back.
Absolute savage.
And it'll be interesting to see if we see him continue to do more MMA after this, or sorry, to do more jiu-jitsu after this, or not.
So if they're paying $30K, like, this is how you keep top talent.
So the next match we have is, do you have anything else to add on that match?
No.
Again, it was great to go back and watch this whole heavyweight bracket. Go watch the whole event. We say it all the time. Go watch this event. It was amazing. Next match we have is Mahamed Aly defeating Tarsus Humphreys via points. Dude, I love watching Ali stand-up judo.
Yeah, he's brutal. So there was a huge size discrepancy. Evidently, Tarsus stepped in last minute.
Didn't cut any weight.
With 8 days. he didn't need to cut weight. He was
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Other guys maybe had to get down to the weight class, or about that weight class. Tarsus, not so much.
dude. There was
But again, dude, this was a former world champion versus the current world champion. Like, high level shit ensued.
oh my god, it was unbelievable, and I was shocked with how well Tarsus did, given the size discrepancy. I mean,
Yeah.
and
He plays that turtle guard, man.
dude, it is
Which has to be the most frustrating thing in a points tournament ever. Because
Right.
if you go to pass a guy's guard and he turtles, you don't get the points. You get the ad.
right.
And it's just like, I watched so many times Muhammad Ali would pass. He'd get there and he'd be like, I mean, it's not a points thing, but it was a points thing, actually. So it's like,
Not just a points thing too. Like, at that point at turtle, I know it's a more ostensibly neutral position, but when you have someone turtled up and you're on top, you feel pretty good. You're like, okay, there's a lot of options I can do.
yeah, they can
here.
only do so much on the bottom.
Right. There's really not many attacks that you can do from the bottom unless you're Tarsus, in which case he has a evidently brutal knee bar game from turtle.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali would not let him get that going. You saw
He
that.
got real close to getting the grips on the knee and ripping it out, and he destabilized Muhammad a few times. I was really impressed with it.
Yeah.
It was absolutely bizarre, but awesome to watch.
It was a beautiful match, but Muhammad Ali takes that via points. Again, I love watching Muhammad Ali. I love watching former world champions. Sorry, not former world champions. That too, but I love watching current world champions go and in the off season do these things, because we get to see how their game's progressing, what they still have that's in the toolbox, and what they get to throw out. Like, you saw some beautiful Harigoshis from Muhammad Ali. We saw
Oh
some
my
Uchimadas.
god, that Harigoshi was brutal.
So they're going
I
for
can't
it
imagine having.
on the receiving end of that.
Yeah, could you imagine? Harigoshi is, you hit the mat hard, even
And
with
then
a
they land
training
on you.
partner, and then Muhammad Ali lands on you. Like, yeah. Oh, dude, I want to talk about this too, because talking about Muhammad Ali and how much it would suck to have him on top of you. Did you see the knee on back?
Dude,
That was brutal.
he gets on Tarsus Humphrey's back, and he basically
So Tarsus is completely prone. His belly's on the ground, and his back is facing upwards. And
Muhammad Ali grabs
he's like, cool, your lower back is a great place for me to put my knee on top of. So he gets kind of a knee on back, and then just starts lifting the
like a
collar
bow and
the
arrow,
leg.
but
Oh,
without he lifts the leg
he
up,
lifts the leg.
and he lifts the collar up
So-
and drives his knee like a knee on belly, but it was a knee on back. You know who's done this to me?
Who?
Josh
Josh.
Weinstock. Josh Weinstock has done this
Yep.
shit to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
Because you just lift against the guy like you're drawing a bow. In that knee, that, you know when you try to tap a guy with knee on belly?
One of the comments, yeah. No, that's what it was.
exactly what it looked like. And I was like, dear God.
That looked like awful. One of the commentators accurately described it as like when Bane breaks Batman's back.
Yeah,
Like,
I think it was
that's what
Drysdale. Drysdale talking about
It's like,
that's
just
what it looks
looked
like.
Fucking terrible.
Dude, so that was that match again. Go back and watch it. Beautiful performance from both guys. But again, I love watching Tarsus's game because he plays such an uncommon game.
Yep.
And he's still being able to make it successful at a high level. Usually, guys that play that weird game, they're never able to make it work at the high level. He's a dude that's been able to make it work at the high level, and it's really cool to see him go against the current world champion at the weight class.
Yeah.
So in the finals, we had Rodolfo Vieira defeating Muhammad Ali via points.
And there was one point where he was very close to getting the submission.
Oh yeah.
I mean, was it the second round? At the end of it, he has Muhammad Ali in a deep armbar. I mean, an armbar that
Dude,
I
you see
certainly
him
would tap to.
gritting his teeth and just ripping the arm out. And he does a really cool thing with his feet here. So most times in the armbar, you're taught to have both legs, one leg over the face, one leg over the shoulders and torso. Muhammad Ali goes to hitchhiker out, and he has his leg that is closest to the hip side, or the body side. He has it looped in front of Muhammad Ali's face. And Keenan has a video about this where they're talking about how it stops the turn. And so Muhammad Ali isn't able to turn out in this position because that leg, Gordon and Keenan talk about this, how the leg is in the way, basically. And it was a really cool position to be able to see it. Oh, that's what they're talking about. And it was out, and it was deep, and I'm surprised that Muhammad Ali didn't tap to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just goes to show you that mental toughness.
And the actual toughness.
Yeah, and the actual toughness.
Yeah,
too,
mental toughness is cool. Like when a guy's ripping on your arm, you're it's not like, oh, I'm mentally have to like drive through this. No, I'm actually tough because this hurts, and I'm gonna continue to fight regardless.
Yeah, man, Rodolfo's a beast, man. Like he just, it was crazy to watch it. It was crazy. You know, Mahamed Aly is sometimes just looks unstoppable.
Dude, he's athletic. Like Mahamed Aly has that scary athleticism that only some guys have. Like Arbert has it.
Right.
But like usually at the heavyweights, you don't see that overwhelming athleticism.
The explosiveness.
Yeah. Dude, at one point in the Tarsus match, Mahamed Aly tried to just jump him out, and he almost got there.
Yeah, he almost
And it's like, guys, just shit you don't see guys do against other really, really good guys.
But Rodolfo's on a different level.
Yeah,
man.
slowed him down.
Dude,
got him
took
in
his
the X
back
guard
at one point.
Yeah, there's some really, really cool. As a guy that's trying to learn more X guard and play more X guard, there was some really, really cool X guard stuff that Rodolfo was doing. And again, from a guy that plays X guard, to watch how Mahamed Aly was unable to get taken over in those X guard sweeps. There's some positions where I was like, okay, how is he not taking him over? And Mahamed Aly was just able to keep his base up, keep there. It was amazing.
Yep.
The whole series of matches was amazing. Rodolfo Vieira. Anything else you want to talk about the match?
No.
Beautiful match. Gets the victory on the points. Is the champion. 30 grand goes to him in the heavyweight bracket. 30 grand goes to Ana Vieira in the women's bracket, and 30 grand goes to Dorino Gilbert Burns in the middleweight bracket. We had one more special match on this card. Frank Mir defeating Forrest Griffin via points.
Yeah, this was, interesting. But I do love Forrest Griffin.
I love Frank Mir.
Yeah, Frank Mir is awesome too, man. Like
he was much bigger than Forrest Griffin in this match.
Weighing in at over 300 pounds. Like,
was he over 300?
He was over 300. That's what they said.
Dude, he was 280 for quintet, 281 for quintet.
Well, they said like, I don't know if Drysdale was being flipped, but he said, like 300 pounds.
Because Forrest Griffin got his black belt from Drysdale, right?
Yeah.
So that was
okay. So maybe he was like trying to.
I'm not sure, because Drysdale kind of hammered in the size difference on these two guys at points during this match. And again, I enjoyed this. It was definitely a much more. It was, again, when you get two MMA guys with a size difference in a grappling match. Like, it wasn't a bad match. It was definitely a much slower match, and both guys are really committed to their game plan.
Yep.
And they're unwilling to move, and like, you don't want fucking Frank Mir on top of you.
No.
And you're faster than Frank Mir, so it's going to be hard for him to take you down.
Mm-hmm.
But so Forrest
actually, it wasn't that hard. Frank Mir timed some really nice takedowns. He had a really nice double.
Yeah, he did actually. Right?
Have,
I misspoke there.
No. I was surprised. He was very patient. He knew that Forrest was going to have to bounce around a lot, and he said, there wasn't any missed shots from Frank. He just waited, saw that split second where Forrest was open, and then boom,
where he kind of
double.
square and you get it.
Yeah,
really good. I mean, that's what we saw with Frank try to do versus Satoshi in quintet.
Yep,
we saw a little bit of that there. So
it's just efficient grappling.
I would love to see Frank in more stuff. Like again, I think he's getting back into competition for grappling. I'm not sure exactly why, but look, if he wants to get back in grappling, hopefully we get those Roy Nelson versus him matches back in like grappling. Back in the what was it? What was that event? Grappler's Quest back in the day. Like, we get those kind of matches again where it's like, these dudes are veterans of the sport. If they want to go back into grapple, like, I'll watch it.
Sure.
So it's awesome. So that was that. For Frank Mir wins 10 grand for his efforts there. So that was a super fight.
So overall, amazing event.
I
mean, just awesome. Great. Lots of great matches.
Dude, the level of competition they put into this event is amazing. And it was free on Facebook.
Yep. The production value was really good too. The only thing that I would say is, I was watching it live, right? So I'm here on the East Coast, so it starts at 9 p.m. on the East Coast.
Oh, it started that late?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it started at 7.
No. It started
okay.
So it was started at 6 p.m. on the West Coast, 9 p.m. on the East Coast.
That's a pretty standard start time.
It's
for a
pretty
West
standard
time. It was out of
start
Vegas.
time.
It was out of Las Vegas.
Yeah, it makes sense. But, when you're going through it and you're watching these matches, they had a lot of downtime in between.
Well, they had intermissions.
At
certain points, and they had like next match starts in like 6 minutes.
Right.
And so watching it,
there was times that especially midnight rolls around after the super fight. I'm sitting there waiting for the finals matches. The 6 minutes until next match timer runs out, and then there's no telling when it's going to start. So I crashed, went to sleep, woke up, watched the match. Awesome. They're available online the next day
Yeah.
for free on Facebook, which is dope. It just made the pacing of the event a little bit, different, especially when I'm not live and I'm not there to, feed off of the energy of the crowd and all of that.
Right.
So, as someone streaming it on the East Coast, made it a little bit slower. So,
I mean, yeah, it was definitely. I watched it again. I watched it after the fact. Didn't watch it live. There was definitely points where I skipped the video forward to go to the next match. So I didn't want to do that as much. But again, watching it live, I can definitely see what you meant there. It's also broken up into 2 videos. I'm not sure exactly why that happened. There seem to be some blips at the broadcast.
it might
now
have
and
been
again.
that
I don't know.
it might be that there's like a 4-hour limit, because I saw that the time stamp for
Maybe that's what it is.
was exactly 4 hours. So
Okay, so they might have had to restart the stream. That's a weird, dude. That's an old school stream issue. Like Ustream used to do that. Used to cut off Rogan at 3 hours, I think, or something like that.
yeah,
And
it might just be a Facebook server thing, like
it's weird though. It's just like you figure in 2018, like dude, Twitch can do like 12-hour streams. Like you figure that everyone would kind of get their streaming services together if
yeah.
they're gonna make it.
Time to
longer.
go yell at Mark Zuckerberg.
That's not the first thing I gotta say to that guy. So again, great event. Go back and watch it. It's on their Facebook page. Some absolutely world class, really cool matchups that we wouldn't have seen really any other way. So go back and watch it. It is definitely worth your time. It is definitely worth. It's definitely worth to go back and watch it because, that's why we cover these things because they're amazing.
Yep.
So anything else you want to add, Emil?
Nah, this is
All right,
awesome.
that does it for Black Belt CBD Invitational. Sirius Grappling also had an event this weekend. We got some match results up for that as well. You can take a look at that on their Facebook page. Andrew Koschel, the guy that we're going to cover next week, won his match, as well as some other guys we see locally. Christian Banghart and Marvin Skipper also won their matches. So their results are up on their Facebook page. Hopefully they'll have match video up pretty soon. You guys can take a look at that, but we wanted to shout them out because we talked about it last week. Marinas Pro, not Marianas. Marianas, not Marinas. I've been messing it up, like Marianas Trench.
Yep.
That's actually how you pronounce it. So it's not Marinas. I've been saying it wrong for about a year now. So they had an event as well. You can check out their results on their page as well. This doesn't look like a huge event, but I think the winner of that for the Black Belts goes on to get a free entry to the Guam event coming up, Marinas Open. The Marinas Open. God damn. Dude, after this long, I should not be fucking up names still. So moving into the pre-cap section, into the preview section of the podcast. I'm leaving that in. Fuck it, it was funny. Into the preview section of the podcast, we're going to be doing commentary for Submission Arena Grappling Competition. From here on forward, we're going to call it SAGC. This is SAGC 7. And this event takes place October 27th in Pennsylvania. We're going to be doing commentary for this event. We are super excited. Emil, you excited for this?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, okay, so we got the preview. We got the prelims for this match. We have Jabral Brown versus Stefan Cortesis. Then we have Eric Shaw versus Thomas Gomez. We have Jacqueline Gordon versus Jesse Gwynn. We have Angel Canella versus Nathan Chrislip. We have Rashad Perez versus Abdu Shah. We have Dylan. Give me the name there.
Dylan
Galletti versus Brandon
Medina.
We have John Vanna versus Brock Stoltz. I will have these down next week. I want to do my homework on these. So these are all prelim matches. All the prelim matches are going to be endurance format for SAGC. And endurance format means that there are 3 5-minute rounds. One submission ends the current round and gets that competitor 1 point, and it's basically the best of the 3 rounds. So the other matches are going to be traditional matches, and those are single 10-minute submission-only matches that either end in submission or a draw with all submissions legal. So the traditional matches on the card are going to be Jason Knighton versus Stepan Gristina.
Then we have Bryant Pabon versus Kobe Rowland. Kyvan Gonzalez versus D-Boy Mazington. Tom Salamari versus Vic Kuhner. Michael Villanueva versus Dylan Martin. John Tuxford versus Ed Abrasley. Jason Frawley versus Joshua Peters.
Well, we know Josh Peters.
Yeah.
He's a local guy from he runs College Park MMA.
Yeah.
So he's
awesome.
He's a small dude. He's a 115er at
Yeah.
MMA. He's using competes at 25.
It'll be really good to see him.
It'll be cool to see him again. Then after that, we move on to the featured endurance match. Again, these are the endurance format again. The 3 5-minute rounds. We have
Gabriel Tejeda versus Joe Gojani. Dante Muschamp versus Michael Moore. Matt Dvorovy versus Saya Webb. Daniel Myra versus Ellis
Karadag.
Yeah.
I talked to Daniel at Fight to Win.
Yeah.
And I've trained with Ellis before, so it'll actually be kind of cool because I've talked to both these guys and know one of these guys.
And dude, he's the brown belt match that I was like, you got to go back and watch this. His finishing sequence is dope. It's gonna be awesome to see him.
Yeah, this is gonna be this is one of the matches I'm really excited about as a commentator to talk about. Be able to talk about and bring additional ears to this match.
So then we
it's
have
great.
Edwards versus Marinon. We have
These are all for so after all that, after the featured matches, the matches that we have after this are the title bouts
Right.
for SAGC. So Edwards is a guy that we've seen previously on. We saw him on It. We've seen him on Rise. We've seen him on a bunch of other stuff, and he's going against Marinon for the SAGC main event. We have Koschel versus Lutz. Andrew Koschel versus Matthias Lutz. And on the undercard, right under that, we have Michael versus Medina. Dude, there's some really good matches on this card. Matthias Lutz is a world champion, and we've seen guys like Koschel. Koshel's been on a tear recently. Edwards has been on a tear recently. We saw him on Olympus Invitational recently, Edwards, and he got kneed in the face, so he had to drop out of that event for that reason alone. So it'll be really exciting to see a lot of these guys. Again, it's a lot of guys we cover on smaller events, so it's really cool to see them being on a showcase event, on a much bigger event like SAGC. Man, super excited to do commentary for Emil. How you feeling about
It's
it?
going to be awesome, man. I can't wait to see this. So definitely tune in. It's going to be a great event.
Yeah, the endurance format's going to be really interesting. I've not seen a whole lot of events utilize that kind of rule set.
Yep.
It reminds me of old school pancration rule set where you get a point for the submission or multiple points for a submission, and then a round continues. But this actually stops the round, and you move on to the next round. So
Right. We have 30 seconds in between rounds.
which is not a whole lot of
That's
time.
not a lot of time.
That's basically
so-
enough time to get up, change your position, maybe get a drink, and then get back into it.
Yep. It's going to be grueling. It's going to be awesome.
They're
All
called endurance
submissions
matches
legal.
for a region.
Yeah, man.
So that's super exciting. That's really interesting. It will be really cool to see how that all plays out. Super excited to see the event. We're going to be there all day, so say hi to us and watch the event. So onto our preview of Fight to Win 91 in New Jersey. This event is headlined by a black belt heavyweight masters no-gi title, Tom DeBlas versus Tex Johnson. I don't like to call him Tex Johnson.
Tex Johnson's
Dude, he
a
shaved his
fucking
beard
beast.
off.
Oh, that's going to look weird.
Dude, he looks so... Josh and I didn't recognize him on the card a couple weeks ago when he was on the card. I was like, who is that? Oh, it's Tex Johnson. Oh, he shaved his beard off. That's might have been a month ago at this point. But, dude, that is going to be a banger match.
Dude, so many of these are going to be bangers. The next match, the co-main event, it's Black Belt Masters Light Heavyweight Gi title. Raji Bryson Barrett, who we just saw over here in Philly, whoop some ass, is going up against Lincoln Pereira from Henzo Gracie Academy. And then after that, we have Devontae Johnson versus
Bones.
Nick Calvanese. 200 black belt no-gi.
Dude, that's going to be such a good match. Like, again, the final three matches in this card are amazing as is, and then you got the rest of the card. We got a 220-pound black belt gi match.
That would be Mike Kalila versus Joe Apadisano. We have a 190-pound black belt no-gi match, Ryan Quinn versus Kyle Farrison.
We got a 220-pound black belt gi match, Eddie Prince versus Carlos Eduardo. 185-pound black belt gi match.
Joseph Marino versus Tona Rivera.
175-pound black belt gi match.
David Escobar versus Joseph Marino.
170-pound black belt no-gi match.
Garrett Lavaghi versus Albert Hughes.
165-pound black belt no-gi match.
Stephen Barnett versus Enrique Galarza.
We see him Galarza frequently on these
Yeah,
things.
man.
145-pound no-gi bout.
Jen Russell versus Abby Pessinelli.
131-pound black belt gi match.
Chris Noonan versus Alex
Dude,
Eklund.
every single card, or probably like every third card, they have these weird weight classes at a level. Like Philly had an 177-pound bout on the Philly card. So I love that Seth goes like, what weight do you want to meet at? All right, we'll meet at this weight. Like the David Escobar versus Chris Diaz match for the Philly card was a 177-pound match. So I love that they just like, what weight do you want to meet at? All right, 131 it is. We have a 120-pound black belt no-gi bout.
Fiona Watson versus Karen Lingle.
We have a 190-pound black belt no-gi bout.
Jerry Aquino versus Guianto Mion.
So the rest of the bouts are brown belt, are purple belt, and then we have a few yellow belt matches and teens matches. So tune in for those. Again, always great card. Even the top of the New Jersey card looks amazing. Like I cannot wait to see what Bones looks like against Calvanese. I can't wait to see what all of these guys match up because these are some super fun matchups.
Yeah. Absolutely. Can't wait to see this on Sunday.
I'm pretty sure this event is on Saturday, Emil.
Well, on Saturday, we're going to be covering SAGC live, so I'm going to have to watch the tape on Sunday.
You're not wrong. All right. So hopefully the videos are up and we get a chance to watch it on Sunday. Dude, I love watching them on Sunday too, because you get to make coffee in the morning, make breakfast, sit down, watch some Fight to Win most of the morning, go training, come back, watch more Fight to Win, do the podcast.
It's going to be dope.
It's a good ass Sunday. It's going to be a good weekend next week of Jiu-Jitsu.
That's right.
Much like this weekend was a good weekend of Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
So that does it for Fight to Win 91 in New Jersey. On to the next one. So also on October 27th, the World Series of Jiu-Jitsu is having a $10,000 event in New York. This one's really cool because it is basically they're paying all the adult competitors. I think they pay all the guys that get in first, maybe some other money to the other divisions as well. I know that they also give youth sponsorships. Basically, they're paying part of your tuition or your gym fees if you win as a youth competitor. And so it's really cool. We like to shout out events that are paying out the grapplers, and they're paying out $10,000 to the grapplers in their event, and so we always like to shout that out. If you're in the area and you want to compete on something, we like to shout out paid tournaments like this. Anything else to add, Emil?
No, definitely check it out, though, if you're around.
You're biased. You're from New York.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
All right, so that's happening on October 27th. And rounding out October 27th, actually, this is actually going to happen before the other events because it's in the UK, is Battle Grapple 3. This event's going to be streaming on combatperformance.co.uk. It's like €5, and it is headlined by a bunch of big guys. Looks like a really cool event. We got
Rafael Colones versus Paulo Picciotto, which is a gi match. We have no gi, Jay Butler versus Brad Pickett.
Brad One Punch Pickett. You know Brad Pickett, right?
Yeah.
From the UFC, retired now.
Yeah.
He's been doing grappling. He had a really funny thing he talked about. I forget what event he was on. It might have been I think he was on one of the Polarises. He talked about, man, opening the guard without punches is really hard. And I just laughed at that because he's been in MMA for so long that it was like, hey, I kind of forgot how to open the guard, that I can't punch guys in the face to have them open the guard. And so it's really cool to see him. We've seen him on a couple. I think we saw Brad Pickett last time on that other UK event, Grapple Fest. We saw him on that event too, so it's really cool to see him on more events since he's retired from MMA. Lots
of great talent on here. No-gi match between Isaiah Wright and Owen O'Flanagan.
We saw. I think we saw both these guys. I know we saw Owen on the last Grapple Fest too.
Yeah, Isaiah Wright. I've definitely seen him compete recently. Next match is a no-gi, Dan Vinny versus John Hathaway. We have a no-gi match between Felipe Mussolino versus Ed Ignomelis. A gi match between Keith McKenzie versus Sean McDonough. A no-gi match between Ashley Grimshaw versus Kamita Else.
I know we've seen Ashley recently as well. And then next match we have Phil Harris versus Ray De Leon. We've seen Ray on, I believe, Fight to Win and a bunch of other stuff. Again, the card is real long, so we're not going to go through all the names. There's a bunch of really, really good grapplers on this card. It's a really fun event. If you get a chance to watch it, it's going to be in the morning on the 27th, so before a lot of the other events kick off. So if you get a chance to watch it, go through and give it a shot. So that does it for previews. Dude, October 27th is fucking stacked with events.
I know, man. That's a lot of jiu-jitsu on one day. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, so I haven't seen you much this week. What have you been up to this week?
It's been a good week, but I went back and I found this awesome ESPN 30 for 30 podcast. So they
listen to more podcasts, Emil?
Dude.
Now that you're doing a podcast, you listen to more. You're looking for a jiu-jitsu podcast? Even though it's an MMA podcast, you're looking for a jiu-jitsu podcast.
It is a jiu-jitsu podcast. So,
it is?
Yeah, because so 30 for 30 does the really high-end sports documentaries.
Dude, they're always great. I don't even like sports that aren't jiu-jitsu and like judo and like MMA, and I'll watch those. Those are really good.
Yeah, so they have a really high-end podcast, and they have a whole podcast, like an hour, on basically the making of UFC 1 and like what went into that and how jiu-jitsu was, obviously the Gracies were the ones who pushed that forward.
We're like, let's make a sport that will put people in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But think about everyone who's been doing jiu-jitsu appreciates how important UFC 1 was for us discovering it, for it becoming an actual sport in the United States.
I like how we discovered jiu-jitsu through MMA, and then we do jiu-jitsu now.
Yeah, no.
I could punch people in the face, or I could just do that ground part with none of me getting punched in my face.
That's right.
I'm just going to do that instead. Actually, I started MMA.
Yeah.
Like, I was in college, and I was about to go running.
No shit.
And I was literally sitting in my college gym with my running stuff on, and I went, I fucking hate to run. I've always hated to run. I remember for like 10 years. It's like, I've always hated to run. I've always wanted to learn how to go fight. So I got in my car with my running stuff on, and I Googled like MMA gym near me. And I just drove to an MMA gym like in the same town, like 25 minutes away. And I showed up to the door. I was like, hey, I want to learn like how to do this. And the guy was like, what's your background? I was like,
None.
I run. And he went, there's a jiu-jitsu class at 7. Show up to that. Or sorry, at 6. And I was like, okay. It was like 4:30. It's like, cool. I got an hour and a half to just like kill in this like weird industrial part of town. So I just literally like drove to the mall, like just looked at my phone in the parking lot and just drove back. And I met my professor there, who was like, hey, this is jiu-jitsu, and then this is Miguel. He's going to show you what you're going to do. And then I did jiu-jitsu from then. And I never looked back.
Yeah, we take it for granted, but you know, it really.
But I got into jiu-jitsu through MMA. I was
Through
like,
MMA,
I want to do MMA.
Yeah, but that's how we all did, right? In the United States anyway. And
Yeah.
it's crazy to hear how bootleg this was. They had
How bootleg.
No,
it was.
I'm dead serious. It's such an amazing podcast.
UFC
because-
1.
UFC 1.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
I love the history of like the UFC and like early jiu-jitsu. I'm a huge
First
history
off-
buff, which is why I love Drysdale so much, because I love he talks about that history.
Yeah, like Hoist was. I didn't realize this, but like Hoist was like an afterthought in the Gracie family. He was like living above some cousin's garage with like a weird fish tank that he kept piranhas in. He was like the weird, like quiet, like little Gracie.
Hoist was the weird brother.
Yeah, he was, and they were like, "Fuck it, he's tiny. No one's gonna think anything of him. It's gonna make it even all the more impressive when he wins." And
And
but,
he will win
but
because
just
he's
hearing,
fucking Hoist Gracie.
right, exactly. But like, just hearing about the shoestringness of this. I mean, they hadn't figured out whether it was going to be a ring or a cage.
They wanted
or
a
what.
moat at one point.
They wanted a moat. That's a true story, and they talk about this and they interview people about this, and they hadn't figured it out. And literally that week in Denver, one of the producers was walking around and saw a vinyl covered chain link fence and was like, "Oh, this will work." And the day of was when they were finally literally duct taping this thing together.
Jesus.
And they didn't know if it was going to contain the sumo wrestler. They were like, they tested
Ty
on
Tully, right?
Yeah.
Ty Tully versus he fought
They-
Gerard Liddell the first
and got his
bout.
fucking teeth
Dude,
knocked
he
out.
got kicked. By the way, a lot of the guys in it didn't know if it was like a real thing. And then Gerard Liddell kicks Tyler Tully in the face, and his teeth go flying, and everyone kind of goes, "Oh, this shit for real." And Tyler Tully goes, "Oh shit, that dude just kicked me in the face."
Yep.
And if you go back and watch that first bout, now it looks super weird, and it looks super weird because he's grounded.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a rule back then. Like the grounded opponent rule, so it looks super weird, the soccer kick, because you're not used to seeing it in the cage.
Yeah.
Because it was legal that first tournament.
But dude, it was so close to not happening. It was so close to us not having jiu-jitsu. So go back and
I
listen.
mean, not having it in its current form, it'd still be around. The Gracie's
I-
still be
I-
pimping that.
I don't think it I really don't think it would have caught on. It would have been some obscure like
It would have been some
weird-
other martial art that guys do.
right,
Yeah.
just some weird little thing. But this it launched it. It made it available.
Dude, it's
to
crazy
us.
that that was MMA, and like you see a card occasionally for MMA come out, and now there are like 5 cards next week. 3 of which we have our eye on,
Yeah.
and 1 of which we're doing commentary for. That isn't even the punchy part.
No.
It's just the jiu-jitsu part.
And dude, we just covered one where they paid the winner $30,000.
Dude,
It's awesome
crazy.
to
Like
see where
it's
the
a
sport's
cool
come.
sport to see. Like now you don't have to punch each other in the face. You can just watch it. So what's the podcast called?
It's called I think it's just called UFC 1 or UFC, but it's
by 30 for 30.
Yeah, it's the ESPN 30 for 30 podcast.
That sounds really
It's
cool.
really good.
Dude, I probably listened to 6 different jiu-jitsu podcasts.
Go back
a
and
week.
listen to this because it's got great
Okay.
interviews and stuff
We
like that.
need to do like a bullshitting piece of the show at the end where we just talk about like the jiu-jitsu podcasts we listen to on a regular basis, because I would love to give a reason to like shout all those different podcasts out, because there's so many other really cool podcasts doing like talking about jiu-jitsu, not necessarily doing what we do, because I think there's very few guys that are willing to wade through and watch like 8 to 12 hours of grappling a weekend and talk about it on a professional level. But there's enough other cool jiu-jitsu content coming out that we like to highlight. So it's I think we should definitely at some point get a list together of the ones that we listen to. I know you listen to a couple of them too, and go through and list them out. So anything else you got, Emil?
That's it, man.
All right, just excited for doing this commentary.
Yeah, I'm
It'll be
pumped.
exciting. So that'll do it. I have been Maine,
I've been Emil.
and this is the Grappling Rewind podcast. We'll see you on the mats. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google Plus.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
Let us know.
reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.